Are you even aware of the dialogue you're having with yourself? Are you even aware that the way you talk to yourself, you would never talk to your children that way or your friends or probably not even your enemies? Like some of the things we say to ourselves are brutal. Why? Why is that okay? And I think largely we're unaware of it. So when you start to come into more awareness, it changes everything. It changes how you talk to yourself, which then changes how your body and the universe responds to that. And then it allows you to stay more conscious as you're making choices that move you towards your goals, whether they're nutritional goals or physical goals or financial goals or spiritual goals or whatever those things are. It all stems from awareness.
Solidarity Sister, Solidarity Sister. Hello and welcome to another episode of Solidarity Sister with Kristen Wilson. I am so excited to introduce you to today's guest. Julia Christine runs a daily podcast called Life After Breath, where she really focuses on helping listeners center with a morning breath practice. She is an awareness and a mindset coach who has helped hundreds of people to change their habits and find success, losing weight and discovering a sense of self. Julia's own personal journey and transformation are extremely inspiring. I just love her attitude and her energy, and I know that you're going to benefit from what she has to share with us. Today, I have such a great guest. Julia Christine is here. She runs a podcast that's called Life After Breath. She is really interested in all things healing. Breathwork is kind of like just the ground roots of that. And she's going to, even during this episode, I'm really excited, is going to lead us through a little breathwork exercise while we're here. But before we get into that, I would love to just ask you, how are you doing today for real?
I'm okay. It's such a generic answer, but I'm okay. I'm doing okay. I'm better than I was yesterday. So that's good. I feel like there is so much, and I've felt it this month or this year more than ever. There's so much pressure to do in January. There's so much pressure to like, and having just come off from a holiday where you're go, 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 do, and like making sure that everybody's taken care of for whatever holiday like festivities you participate in. And then you're like, you come down from that. And then the next thing you know, you have to figure out what you want for the rest of the year. And you set goals and you like all these things that you want to change or develop or all these things. And it's like, I'm just finding way too much pressure wrapped in that. And so I'm actually in the process of just letting that go and allowing things to happen in January. And so part of that is I live in New York. It's cold. All I want to do is stay wrapped up in my blanket on a couch. But I'm not going to help anybody doing that. I'm not going to help myself doing that. I'm not going to take those steps forward that I want to for the month or for the year by sitting on my butt on the couch. So there's conflict there because that's what my body's telling me to do because it's winter. So we're supposed to hibernate, right?
There's a balance there, though. I think
Yeah,
there is time that we need to just sit on the couch and recharge.
right.
There's one podcaster, and she's done some other things that I followed for a while and got her book, and her name is Brooke Snow. And one of the things that I learned from her, she ran a coaching program, and one year she usually started it in January, and she kind of
Mhm.
pushed it back to the spring and talked about how, as humans, we're so often working against the seasons.
Yes,
And
exactly.
that really resonated with me. Why don't we
Hmm.
do spring resolutions? Because the calendar is changing from 2023 to 2024. It happens every year, the 31st and then the 1st of
Right.
January. But really, we're still feeling that winter. And
Yeah.
January is often a very difficult month, especially
Hmm.
for those of us who are really affected by seasons and have that whole sad thing going on.
Right.
Like, I really am not in a position where I necessarily want to like solve the world's problems in January. But come
Right.
March, I'm feeling better about it.
Yeah. And it's interesting because like this is probably the third or fourth conversation that I've been a part of where I'm feeling more of a collection or a collective around this theory of like January is not the month to do that. I mean, and honestly, even the new year, the calendar changing, that's a man-made thing, but the seasons, they're completely natural. What is the world, the natural world around us doing in January? Sleeping, bearing down, getting through the winter. And then in spring, And like Kathy Heller even said that last week. I don't know if you're part of the quilt community with Kathy Heller, but she even said that, like, and it was like an affirmation almost of like, okay, it's okay that I feel this way. And then I heard from another dear friend of mine yesterday, and she was like, actually, January is a month of allowing, receiving, and letting things be. And February is a month of action. And it was like, just that much more permission for me to be like, okay, I'm going to continue staying in motion and allowing things to happen through me and with me. And I'm going to use this time to prepare for action in February. And it just resonates. It feels so much better. And so that's why I say I'm doing so much better today because I'm more accepting of that instead of feeling this angsty pressure of trying to be kind to myself, but also being angry with myself because I'm not doing the things that I wanted to do. And, how
Yes.
we get in
And
our
we're like,
head. Yeah.
oh my gosh, it's the ninth. I've already ruined the whole year
Exactly.
because I missed
Why
one
start
day
now?
on the thing I was trying to do and be consistent on. And
Right.
not all of us are actually really masters of consistency. Like, I know there's a place for habit and discipline, but like for those who have the ADHD flavor, like I do,
Right.
actually don't work well in
Right.
consistency. I work
No.
better in like hyper focus and get a
Right.
bunch knocked out and then have a period of rest. That works better for me. So this idea of like if I don't do this one thing every day just right, like I am failing doesn't help me.
Well, and I want to question, like, what about finding flexibility within consistency? Like,
Yes.
for example, I post every day, like I have a podcast that is daily. So every single day, and it's in my head, it's this many minutes, and it's this, and it's this, and it's this. What if it doesn't have to be that? Like, what if it can be less than that? And I have done that a little bit where instead of like having a topic or something to talk about before we start our breath work, I've just been like, you know what? Today we're breathing because that's what I need. So if I need it, then somebody else probably does too. Like, and just letting that be what it is. I think it's important for us to have some consistency in our life, but let's figure out how to be flexible with that and not so rigid. And that goes to my theories of where perfectionism comes in and our inherent social desire, need to be right, to color in the lines, to like that's something that's set up from child, like from birth. It's like you stay in the lines, stay in the lines. You have to be right, do it right, do it right. It's like no, there's no such thing as right because what's right for you is probably not what's right for me, and vice versa. So let's have some flexibility within that consistency and within that structure and within that. It's so much easier to move and stay and flow and listen. In my opinion, this is really important. And listening to yourself and to your inner guides and into your, to be able to function and to know what to do next. And we know that by how we feel. And if something feels good, keep going. If something feels gross, stop and look at it for just a second and get curious about that grossness and maybe move in a different direction. Find something that feels just that much better and go with that. Whether that's instead of a 5-minute podcast, it's only 3 minutes, like
I agree with that. And I think I found I have been the most successful on things like morning routines when they are scalable, which I may have learned from Atomic Habits. I don't know. I've read so many books like that that sometimes I'm not sure that I'm attributing the right person, but I used to do this loving five in the morning and it included breathing, it included getting a drink of water, it included moving my body, but I gave myself the ability to have moving my body last anywhere from like 1 minute to 45 minutes. If I was in a really big hurry because I have 8 children and I woke up too late, I could take 1 minute. And the whole routine could be done in as little as about 2.5 minutes or as long as 2 hours, and that is when I was the most successful.
And that's what I was going to say when you said something about like it's already the ninth and now what's the point? Or like now I've ruined this whole thing that I was going to do. I was talking to a friend of mine today because I'm working through this literally right now. Like this is all from that question of how are you really doing? And I was telling her like I'm not going to worry about the rest of the things that I want to line up for myself. I'm just going to focus on. And I was like this, and this. And she was like, what? She's like, I got to tell you, instant heart rate like increase like just from listing those four things. How are you doing all four of those things at once? Like she's like, slow down. Like pick
Yeah.
one of those things. And I was like, really? We think we have to do it all and we have to do it all now. We have to do it all perfectly. What
Mhm.
if you don't have to do it perfectly? First of all, we'll take that off of our shoulders. And then what if we just do one? What if we just start, like I said to you before we started recording, 3 minutes? Just start with 3 minutes. Start
So
with 3 breaths, not
yeah,
3 minutes, like just start. And then in the next week, oh, wow, I can actually take 5 minutes. Cool. Stay with that for a little while. See how that feels. See how that works. I want more. Cool. Do 7.
it's so true. So often we will compare ourselves to someone who's been doing a particular practice or exercise or habit or whatever the thing is for an extended period of time, and we'll be like, I could never be that. Instead of looking at what they were when they started, because we don't generally see that part.
Absolutely.
And if we could see that, we'd be like, oh, well, they got
Right.
to start somewhere too.
I actually saw an interview with Jay-Z, the rapper, and he's a freaking multimillionaire. Like he owns the Brooklyn basketball team. Like he's huge, right? He's married to Beyonce. He's like this massive guy. And he was like, people always say that they want to be me. They're aspiring to be here. And like I'm here and I'm riding high and I'm all these things, but they forget all the crap I went through to get here. You got to aspire to go through the crap too, because I mean, he started out as a drug dealer in Brooklyn. Like you know what I mean? And now here he is, and he worked his way up. Not, he didn't sell drugs to get up. Don't get me wrong. He did stop selling drugs. but, but like he had a massive, very difficult journey. And his point is like, don't think you're like, I want to be there and you're gonna be. You can be, but you got to work and you got to do all the other stuff. And so when you get into that comparative mode, it's just like with Instagram and social media and stuff, like you see the polished picture, you see everybody's filters, and you see like, oh my gosh, her skin looks so amazing. Well, that's because she's got 3 filters on it. You know what I mean? Or whatever that is. So don't compare your skin to her. Like if we can step out of that comparison and realize that, first of all, we're all on our own journey and we'll get there where we want to be. You can allow them to inspire you to keep moving
100%.
forward, but to get into that comparison place, I don't feel like a lot of good can come from that.
It really doesn't. And
Right.
I think the best place for comparison for ourselves is really just when we use it with ourselves in order to say, here I was at point A, and now
Absolutely.
I've been working on this. And now at point B, I can look back and see. Sometimes I've done that with my kids. Like I have one in particular that's multiple competition dancers, but one of them that would have a hard time when there was a new skill and be like, I'm never going to be able to do that. Or like,
Right.
there's a lot of that kind of talk. And I'd be like, do you remember when you said you'd never be able to do a cartwheel? And she was like, oh my gosh, cartwheels are easy. I'm like, right, right.
Right.
But the first time you tried to do a cartwheel, it really wasn't easy and it really wasn't pretty. And it
Right.
took time. And we do a better job as a society, as a
Right.
humankind of supporting children on those kinds of steps. Like nobody looks at a baby who falls down when they're learning to walk and,
Right.
oh my gosh, why did you fall down? Like you should just be, like, what's wrong with you? You're never gonna walk if you fall down like that. Like no
Right.
one would ever say that.
Right.
But then sometimes we talk to ourselves like that.
Right. I also want to point out, though, that because I completely agree with you. When I say though, it sounds like I'm going to argue, and I'm not.
You're
But
right.
just another point is that baby falls down and gets right back up. There is no question in a child's mind that they're not going to accomplish the thing that they're setting out to accomplish. And I believe so much of that comes from this inherent, we are born loving ourselves. We don't know anything else.
I love
We
that.
are born pursuing the things that we know that we need and want to pursue. And we
Mhm.
don't let the outside world, including falling on our butts every now and then, we don't let that stop us, you know? And yet, 7 and 8, we start to doubt ourselves. We stop loving ourselves. We start all taking in the world around us and comparing and all of those things. So I think that's really important to point out, is that we can continue to love ourselves and get back to a place of love and understanding and grace.
And we have to have that or we won't keep going. I recently found a reel that I think Lindsay Sterling herself had shared it, and you're probably familiar with her. She's like
Mhm.
the violinist who dances, and she's
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
And it was her first audition on, I think it was America's Got Talent. And the judges were merciless.
Yeah.
They told her she wasn't ever going to go anywhere, that she certainly could never do a solo show. She would need some kind of backup. No one's going to show up for just her. And then you see 10 years later, like what
Yeah.
she's done. And it's because she got up every time
Yeah.
and she kept honing her craft. She put in the work, but she also had the mindset piece of like,
Yeah.
I was born to do this. She was clearly born to do this. I don't even know most people I don't even think are capable of doing what she does, honestly. But
She's
like,
fantastic though. Like I didn't know she danced
really
until this year. Like I thought she was just an amazing violinist.
self-taught for the
Right.
most as you listen to her story or learn about that. She dances beautifully, but it's her own way and it's her own style and
Yeah.
it's her own practice because she was able to keep coming back to that place. And
Yeah.
I admire her a lot. And it was good for my kids because they think she's so cool and so amazing.
Right.
And I was like, but look at where she was and look what
Yeah.
people said to her. And what if she would have gone home and quit?
Right. Yeah.
What if she
Yeah.
would like the judges hated me? Like I'm never going to be able to like it's over.
Right.
All of the future would have changed.
Yeah. I am a big advocate for words. Like it's part of my methodology with my coaching, and vocabulary is huge. And how we talk to ourselves is so important. But one of the things that we always do is we say, I am fill in the blank, right? I am are the two most powerful words in the English language because I believe very strongly that when you say I'm an idiot or I can't do this or I'm too lazy or I'm this or I'm that, the universe, God, fill in the blank for what works for you, and your body kind of go, okay, cool. I'm an idiot. Your body's like, cool. How many times have you like been dropping something, like you drop something and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so clumsy. And then you drop something else and then you drop something else. And it's like, it's because you've announced and kind of claimed that clumsiness, whether it's for the day or for whatever. So like when you say, I can't do this or I am poor, like whatever that, like I am fat, I am tired, your body's like, cool. I'm gonna
Mhm.
stay right here instead of like, I'm feeling this way, but I'm not this. This is not, I'm not claiming this. Like this, whatever that is. Like
I love that.
I had a friend say, like, I can't afford it. And it was like, oh, we're not going to say that. We're going to say, it's not in our budget right now. And
Sure.
that way, I'm not claiming that I can't afford something. I'm claiming that I haven't planned for it.
Yes. I know I love that. I teach my kids to use the word yet a lot.
Right.
So
Yes.
it's I can't do this trick yet.
Right.
I can't do this
Right.
yet. That at least changes it. It like
Right.
dynamic.
My
Or
big thing, I've always been like, if I feel like I've let somebody down, I'm like, oh, I'm the worst. And I remember very viscerally going to type that because I was running late. And I went to type, I'm the worst. And I was like, hang on a second. I'm just late. Like, why does that make me the worst?
like
Immediately took that back.
you go through history and all of the wars and atrocities and you're I was 4 minutes late. I am the worst.
Right. Even
Like,
if I was 40 minutes late, I'm not the worst. You know what I mean?
oh no, for sure.
So,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
we talk
really
about
important. And that comes back to my theory of awareness. We say things to ourselves, whether verbally or internally, all day long. Are you even aware of the dialogue you're having with yourself? Are you even aware that the way you talk to yourself, you would never talk to your children that way or your friends or probably not even your enemies? Like some of the things we say to ourselves are brutal. Why? Why is that okay? And I think largely we're unaware of it. So when you start to come into more awareness, it changes everything. It changes how you talk to yourself, which then changes how your body and the universe responds to that. And then it allows you to stay more conscious as you're making choices that move you towards your goals, whether they're nutritional goals or physical goals or financial goals or spiritual goals or whatever those things are. It all stems from awareness.
I think that also impacts, we talk a lot about community on this podcast,
Right.
how you enter and become part of community, because I have seen the dialogue of no one likes me, no one
Mm-hmm.
cares about me, no one would want to, know about how I'm feeling. And sometimes our inability to connect with community actually comes with personal blocks. It's the
Right.
personal blocks that we sometimes have to do a little bit of work
Right.
because it is scary to be
Yeah.
vulnerable. And sometimes we're vulnerable to someone and they weren't safe. And so then we want to extrapolate that to the whole world because this
Right.
one person was unsafe. So the whole world must be full of unsafe people. But I believe Mr. Rogers, and he said to look for the helpers, and they're always there. There are always good people out there. And
I
so
believe Mr. Rogers.
he was like, he was a guru.
Oof. I was just gonna say he's a guru. It's funny though, because as soon as you brought up community, in my head, I thought to myself, starts with self-love. Like those were the first things that popped into my mind. And it was like, okay, because you think about what you're gonna talk about when and so like I was like, okay, I'll talk about my theory about self-love. But then the immediate thing you said was no one's going to like me, no one's going to this, no, that actually comes from your self-worth and your lack of self-worth. And so I think as we become more aware and conscious of how we're talking to ourselves and actually truly figuring out who we are in order to fully love ourselves where we are. And that's, I'm not going to lie to you, that's not easy. I'm actually struggling with that right now too. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
loving yourself right where you are, flaws and all, whatever those, those ideas of flaws are, because they're not really there. That's where you have to start in order to love anybody else. And like, there's theories around that, but how can you show up feeling confident enough that someone is going to like you? Walking into a room, like if you're working towards being a part of a new community, if you don't feel like you can offer somebody to something because you don't feel like you are worth anything, how are you showing up? Whereas if you do feel like you're worth something and you can walk in there and know that I have so much to offer every single person, just like they have so much to offer me, that's a completely different ballgame. And now I am more whole and ready to be a part of a community. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that sometimes our healing, it all is happening at once. So we're not like healing alone in a vacuum and then entering community.
Right.
Because really, some of the most powerful healing that I have ever experienced came in a community, but it's
Right.
being willing to say there could be a place that is safe enough and I could give value there and other people could give value to
Right.
me and being able
Absolutely.
to then lean into that. And so you don't have to be, I wouldn't want anyone listening to think, oh, so if I have self-esteem issues, I'm never going to have friends because
No.
I have to do the self-esteem issue.
That's
Or
not what I mean at all. Yeah, my whole transformational story, I was like, I hated myself more than anything. Like I was about to end my life. I didn't want to improve my life. I was done. You know what I mean? No, I'm good. I don't want that. But at the same time, I know that the people in my life felt loved by me. I know that I was able, I loved my mom. I loved my family. I loved my friends. So I'm not saying you can't love without self-love. That's not absolutely not what I'm saying. Thank you for clarifying. That's why I kind of was like, "Oh, I don't like saying that." But I feel like I now that I am in a place where I do love myself, where I am connected to myself in a way that I was not even remotely. um, I understand what that is more. I am more present to be able to accept their love even
sure.
because how many times has somebody given you a compliment and you're like, "Oh yeah, okay, thanks." Uh-huh. And you blow it off because you don't really believe it about
As,
yourself.
as you learn to love yourself more, your capacity to receive and give love with others increases.
100%.
You can find a really safe friend or a partner or whatever who is showing you more and more what love
Right.
is. Because
Right.
I think of one of my daughter's friends who I have such a huge heart for her. I love her. She did not have a fantastic upbringing
Mhm.
and leaning into mothering her two girls in a way that she wasn't mothered
Yes.
and being kind of that generational breaker,
Amazing.
those, and
Yeah.
it's hard. Like I
Yeah.
look at that and like my own mom, she was imperfect, but
Mhm.
she wasn't abusive. She
Right.
did a good job. She gave us the best that she had. And so I think that for those of us, like, I can't imagine what it would be like for my modeling to be so off to say, wouldn't want to be anything like my own mom because some people are in that position.
Right.
My mom and I think differently, so there are a lot of things I do differently than she does
Absolutely.
because we're kind of just wired differently. She's
Mhm.
literally the most consistent person I've ever met, and I'm like, I don't know, I did not get those genetics. But there are a lot of things that I want to be like her
Yeah.
in. She was the greatest, most anonymous giver that I've ever known, and I've learned so much about service from her.
Yeah.
So I look at like sometimes finding other healthy connections in adulthood, you're able to kind of learn, okay, this is what it could have been
Yeah.
like and
It
what
is
would be healthier. And it takes time,
right.
but it takes actual relationships to be able to navigate that. And you can't heal that alone.
Right, right. Well, that's what I was going to say about healing. I think sometimes when we start talking about healing and growth, it comes from a place of as if we were broken and we need to be fixed. And that is not true. Sometimes we feel broken. but we are okay. We are healthy and whole. Like I am a whole person. I could improve, sure. I can grow and I can learn and I can heal my past traumas, my generational traumas, which my mind is exploding recently about all of this now scientifically backed generational like healing that goes on, and it's phenomenal. But healing is a journey. Healing is like a season, and you go through like a season of just like just when we were talking about winter and stuff. We're going through a season, and then all of a sudden we feel so healthy and strong, and then here we are again, and there's another season of healing. It's not because you need fixing. There's nothing wrong with you. It's because there are things to go through. And so you continue to heal, and you do need support by the people around you. And you talk about finding someone who's safe. And I think that that is really important to build that trust. You've got to trust yourself first. Trust in yourself and that you are right where you need to be. There's no comparison to other people or other people's journeys. I am right where I need to be because things are unfolding the way that God or the universe or whomever has planned. Like this is everything is happening as it should, which means I'm right where I need to be, even though I feel so behind or I feel whatever that is. Cool, but I'm right where I need to be. I may not like it,
Yes.
but it's right where I need to be. And I have something to learn here, and that is healthy. That is healthy. And we keep going. And it's going to spiral around. There's a great book called The Self-Healing Spiral, and it literally is like you have a massive injury, you're going to heal in bits, and then you're going to come back around and you're going to hit it again, and you're going to be like, here's that thing again. I thought I went through this already. And then you go around and you hit it again, but you might catch it a little bit sooner or it
Mhm.
might not hurt as bad. And then you hit it again, and eventually you hit it again, and you're like, oh, cool, that's where that thing is. It didn't hurt this time. But it takes a little bit of time. So as you're healing, when you cry, when you all of those things, let's approach it from a place of curiosity. That's a big thing for me instead of judgment. It's so easy for us to judge ourselves. We judge our chills. I don't know why I'm crying. And then we try to figure it out. Just let yourself cry because that means you're healing. There's
Yes.
something to release, so we're gonna release it. And then when you hit this thing and you're like, really? I'm struggling with my self-worth again? I thought that I dealt with this. Instead of judging myself for that, I'm gonna go, huh, where is this coming from this time? What part of this self-worth issue have I not looked at yet? Huh, how can I apply the things I've learned about my self-worth before to this experience? And you can start to heal that way too. I'm totally veering off from community,
No,
but
but I actually love that, especially because I am coming into this healing season for myself where I
right,
went through all of that. Like I had all these tools when these really difficult life experiences in our family of the last couple of years really kind of knocked me down. And I
right.
did feel absolutely broken. And then I felt this extra layer of like, what's wrong with me? Like I have tools and I'm not even using them, which then that shame and that extra guilt, like
Hmm.
it served me 0%.
Right, right, right.
Everything worse and it made me feel worse. It's why we're here in this podcast because I'm like, I can't be the only one who's done this.
You are not. You are
I
absolutely
think
not.
it's
That's
the human experience, and I think we need to talk about it. And I think
yes,
we need to normalize that this
yes,
actually is the human experience,
yes,
that you have seasons that are awesome and you have seasons that kind of suck really hard. And then you have seasons that are kind of in the middle.
right.
And
And in every one of those seasons, you are not alone. You are not alone. You're not alone. The fact that you freak out that somebody's going to judge you when you walk down the street in your new pair of pants or whatever because they're just a little bit tighter than you wanted them to be and you think everybody's staring at you. They are so consumed with the fact that they think that everybody's staring at their too tight jeans that they don't even think about you.
oh,
You know
that's
what I mean?
so like it's about middle school. The
That's
kids
the
are like,
thing.
I can't go to school like this. And I'm like, nobody cares what you look like because they only care about what they look like.
Exactly.
And so,
Exactly.
oh,
Have you ever had that thought where you're like, I would never wear that? It's a thought and then it's gone. Why would you let it ruin your night if somebody had that thought about you? Who cares? You know what I
no,
mean? So like when we can like
yeah.
change our perspectives about stuff, but I think that you're not alone in the healing and the growth and the whatever. And so when you can find a community of people that you trust, you can talk to somebody about that. You can, you know what I mean? You can see that other people are going through it. You can learn about it together. You can like whatever it is, and you can apply these different things. Not everybody has to be a coach in order to help you have an aha moment. Like I've had so many like, oh my gosh, that's so brilliant from people who like are
I won't pay for that.
mathematicians.
You're just my friend. This is fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, that was good. Thank you for that. Because we all go through it. It's different for every single one of us. The experiences we go through are different and our healing is different. So this is kind of like a little woo-woo, just putting it out there. And it's a little bit weird, but what if, just go with me on this, there's no such thing as reality because reality is perspective. And we can be going through we're in the exact same podcast right now. Your perspective of how this is going is completely different than my perspective.
And that
And
makes,
yet,
I hope you think it's going okay.
no, 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 I think it's amazing. No, this is really fun and I'm loving this conversation. But do you see what I mean? Everybody's perspective is different. So, like when you're talking about your childhood, I actually had this conversation with my mom before I started my podcast, was like, look, I'm going to talk about my childhood and I'm going to talk about things. But you have to know, I come from a divorced family. My dad was a drug addict and like just not a great person. There was a lot of abuse to me and stuff like that that I've dealt with that I continue to deal with because it's a process. But my mom was solid. My mom has always loved us, has always whatever, like not whatever. Like my mom is my hero. She's friggin' incredible. However, in order to support two children on her own, she worked full time. So my mom wasn't around. You know what I mean? So like I deal with abandonment issues. Did she do anything wrong? No. Would I have done anything different? Probably not. But here's the thing. As a child, I was raised in daycare. You know what I mean? And so like I didn't have my mom there all of the time, which is cool. We do what we have to do. And so when you become and you start this healing journey and you realize that the things that happened in your life and you feel like somebody did something to you, it actually has nothing to do with you. You know what I mean?
I hear that. And I think it makes so much sense. And I've actually had the opportunity with a couple of my different kids to look back at things. My 8 kids range from 5.5 to 23. So with some of the older ones, I've had the opportunity to go back and see as a mom where I doing the best I could with all that I had and loving my kids, and none of my kids doubt that I love them,
Yeah,
where I didn't measure up in a way that met a need that they had at that time.
right,
And it's a tough thing to learn, but to be able to
right,
look at that with them and say, I can take responsibility for that because I'm the adult and you're the child. And also,
right.
I really
And
did
also,
give you the best I could,
yes,
what I
thank
had.
you.
And
Yeah,
I love you then and I love you now. And as I've learned how to do better, I am doing better.
right.
That's really all I can do. So I am sorry. And I'm sad about that. Like I grieve for the part of that, that child's childhood that I
Yeah,
didn't get right for them.
yeah,
But at the same time, like I really did the best I could with what I had. And I think I'm actually a pretty good mom. And I think it's healthy for them to see that
yes,
because
yes.
then they can learn to look back on their lives at the times that they didn't get it right
And change their perspective.
and say, but I did the best I could with what I had at that time. Or maybe I didn't. Maybe I know I could have done better, but I made a choice at that time to do
Right.
what wasn't best for me.
And I
But
learned all of this stuff
learning
from it.
from it. And now
Yep.
I'm still moving forward and I can still be a good person. And I think it's healthy to be able to do that in a generational place. And that
Yes,
strengthens the family community. But I think
absolutely.
in other families where there's no taking of responsibility either sometimes
Right,
within it'll be like, well, I did what
right,
I gave you what I had and that was enough and you should just be grateful. But I
right.
think that and is important. I think you can be grateful that your mom was your rock and be sad that you spent time in daycare and have some abandonment issues. You can have them both. It's
Totally. It's about figuring it out. And this, I want to just like disclaimer, this takes time. What I'm
yes.
about to say takes a lot of time and a lot of, I don't like using this work, but I'm going to anyway, work. And that is that you come to a place, my mom couldn't have done anything different. Absolutely not. She did everything that she did everything I needed her to do. So there's no blame in the fact that I grew up in daycare. It was where we were and where we needed to be. And truthfully, it made me who I am today. And I kind of like who I am today. So the experiences that I had have led me here, and that's cool. So let's put that aside for just a second. But then let's also look at some of the trauma that we have in our lives. And there are people who are dealing, and I'm mildly among them, with massive trauma from the abuse that they experienced from a parent, from a relative, from a friend, from whatever. And how in the world do you ever get to a place of forgiveness for that? How do you ever move on from that? How do you ever not feel wounded or start to heal from that? And it comes from a place, for me, it came from a place of how hanging on to it hurts. Hanging on to it is like picking a scab over and over and over again, and it's never going to heal. Sorry, that's a little bit of a gross visual, but like it's true. And so for me, that began with my dad's gone now
Mhm.
and was gone when I started this exercise. But I literally looked at myself in the mirror. Granted, I had to get to a place where I could look at myself in the mirror. And I said out loud to myself, Dad, I forgive you for not being the dad I needed. Now, am I forgiving what he did? No. Am I forgiving any of that? No. But you weren't who I needed. You didn't live up to my expectations. Now, those are my expectations. So that means I'm taking a little bit of the responsibility there. I expected a better dad. I needed a better dad, and you weren't that. And that's where it starts. And it took a long time for me to even get to that point. And then it took a long time for me, that being all I said, to now being at a place where, like, how could I expect any different? When I look at how he was raised, when I look at the things that he went through and had no support and had like and turned to alcohol and drugs because he had nothing else to turn to and like all of these things. And again, am I glad those things happened to me? No. Am I glad that like do I forgive those actions? No, because those things are unforgivable. But I understand. And so because I understand, I can let it go. I can let it be. Let's start there. I don't have to let it go. I just have to let it be because that heals me. And that's what it's about. He's gone. He doesn't know I'm forgiving him. The people in your life that you're forgiving have no idea.
No, it's not for them.
Exactly.
I think forgiveness is tricky. Sometimes it's used to throw at victims and as a weapon to keep them from getting out from being victimized. And in
Right?
that respect, then I'm like, that's a hard no for me because for me, forgiveness is letting the judgment, the resentment, the hardship of all of those feelings of that person go. That
Right.
is forgiveness as it is. From my being a Christian perspective,
Right.
I turn it to I'm not going to minimize the sin. I'm going to
No.
maximize the atonement and I'm going to turn to God for restitution and not to this person.
Right.
That's the process of forgiveness. And I feel like that helps me every time.
Right.
It's
Absolutely.
not forgiveness, but that people think is, or sometimes lump in with it, is restitution and a restoring of trust and
No.
repairing the relationship. And that to me is actually a completely different thing
Totally.
because you could forgive someone and never see them again
Right.
while they're alive and you chose that and that doesn't mean you didn't forgive because you don't want to invite
No.
you don't want to go to family dinner with the abuser like
Yeah.
you
No.
could
Forgive
that's
and forget is like there's one of
not
the
the
like
same thing.
most BS things to say, I think, because that's not what it's about. And I completely agree with you. I actually just had this conversation with my friend, and like you have gotten to a point where you've forgiven this person for how they treated you, or you have worked on that and healed and let those wounds go or be for now so that you can heal. It has nothing to do with that person. And you can acknowledge that I'm done with this and not allow them back in your life. It's like when somebody says, I'm sorry, what's the first thing you say? Okay, it's okay. No, 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 no. I remember getting to a point with my brother, love him to pieces, but he would apologize. And every time he apologized, I said it was okay. But it's not okay. That behavior is not okay. So I'm not going to tell you it's okay. I'm going to thank you for apologizing. We're
Yes.
going to have a conversation about how those behaviors affect me. And then I'm going to look at how I allow those behaviors to affect me instead
Mhm.
of realizing, you know what? This is the pattern. I'm not going to be tied to this because I'm going to end up wounded again.
Yes, and I can disengage. We need to
Exactly. That's what boundaries are, right? Is realizing what's going on. What am I allowing to affect me and putting those boundaries up so that I don't allow somebody else's behavior to be. Nobody can make you mad. That's me reacting to somebody's behavior. That behavior largely has nothing to do with me. So I'm going to analyze that and be like, is this person right? No, I don't know what they're talking about. They're yelling at me as if I did something wrong, but I no, they're not right. Okay, cool. Then this isn't about me. I'm gonna let them yell. Is this about me? Yeah. Are they right? No. Or is it something I want to change? No,
Sure.
this is who I am now. I've changed, I've grown, I've done all these things. I have boundaries in place. So while they're upset about those boundaries, they're right. I've put up boundaries. So yeah, that's true. But do I want to change it? No. Okay, cool. Then this is their issue with my boundaries, has nothing to do with me. And then finally, are they right? Yes. Is there something I can do to change that I want to change? Yeah, they have a point. I should have called you back. And so then you can interrupt that person from yelling at you and say, you know what, you're absolutely right. I'm going to take responsibility for that and I'm going to put these in place to change.
Best apology is changed behavior.
Yeah, yeah.
100% isn't the words that we
Almost
say.
like, thank you for bringing that to my attention. I'm going to work on that.
Yes.
How can they argue? How can they still be mad?
And that's relationship building too. I find that when I've been in a position with friends or with my kids or my husband or whatever to say, I didn't even realize that. Sometimes you
Right.
don't even know.
No.
Like you were talking about, we're all having our own different perspectives.
Yes.
Sometimes the story that someone's telling themselves about what I think or why I did something, I ghost people sometimes. I really genuinely don't mean to. I
Right.
sometimes respond in my head to a message, literally that I sent the message. And then I recently did this with someone who had reached out to me a couple of months ago, was like, I'm thinking about your family. I hope you're doing well. Came back a couple months later, went to send her a text and was like, there is no response from me here. Huh? Oh, like
Yeah.
and I felt really bad about it. And
Yeah.
she could be telling herself a story of how like I didn't care, I was trying whatever, like, and but honestly, the combination of my currently unmedicated ADHD and the seven children who still live in my home, I drop balls all the
Yeah.
time. But it isn't because I don't care about people.
Right.
I'm late to things from time to time and I'm doing the best I can, but like time blindness is real. I'm doing all the
Yeah.
things I can to combat that, but it's rough and it is good to be able to learn to go through life assuming that other people are probably doing the best they can
Right.
because most of the time they actually are. And
Yeah.
most of the time, the way that they're responding to us, one thing I like to tell my kids is how you treat other people is a reflection of you, and how others treat you is a reflection of them.
Exactly.
Like,
And it's so easy for us to be like, well, they didn't respond, so they must be upset with me. Really? Probably has nothing to do with you, you know? And so when we remember that we are in control there, are you in control? Is this within my control? No. Okay, then I can let it go.
yeah, I think there's some great nuggets of truth for being able to be in relationships with other people and to
Yeah.
learn how to lean into that. So tell me, where are you finding community now?
I I have found a lot of community in various courses that I've taken. I've taken several of Kathy Heller's courses, and I'm currently taking a course with Kelsey Murphy. And the women in these courses are amazing, mostly like-minded, but supporting each other in our growth together. Like that is massive for me. When I went through my big weight loss transformation, I found major community within the coaches. That's when I started coaching, was through this weight loss program. And that coaching community was the first time in years that I'd really felt a community of people. And that was like balm to my soul. Do you know what I mean? Like it was like a salve. It just was like, I belong somewhere. I think that that is really, really important. We talk about all of the different support and things like that that we can get from a community, but when you really think about it, it is who we are as creatures, as like because a gajillion years ago we had to be able. It's why we want to fit in. We think like no, who cares? Nobody's looking at you. Who cares what you look like? But why that is inherent in every single one of us is to fit in and to look good and to all those things because we had to. Because back in like Neanderthal days, if we were excluded from our community, we would die. You could not survive on your own. And so
100%.
like it is actually in our DNA to belong.
We are wired for connection.
Absolutely. And so when we don't have that community, there's a sense of loss. There's a sense of being lost, like both of those. And so like I think it's really important that you are not on your journey alone. I think it's really important to have a community. I think it's also really important to have a coach. I think those two things are basis for moving forward. And there are so many places I actually am working with a client on this. Like there's so many places to go to find something. Like what brings you joy? I love to do crossword puzzles. There are a gajillion people online who love to do crossword puzzles. They will get together in a room and do crossword puzzles with you. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes, which is fantastic. Like you can
yeah,
find a community for wherever your interests are. Some are easier than others, right? Because
yeah,
like if you're part of a church community, that can be easier. Not always, but it can
right,
be. If you're part of like all of your kids are in elementary school and you're all going to all
right,
activities
right,
together and you have that kind of like PTA connection
right.
community. But then there are other phases of life where it's a little harder. You
An aspect. There are more of why when before I started coaching, I was working all of the time is because not only was that work, it was the only place I felt like there was community for me. I didn't have, I did not take care of myself. I did not love myself. I didn't even understand the importance of being how I probably would have felt more inclined to do those things, love myself and take care of myself, had I been a part of a community, like all of those things. But it didn't even occur to me. I didn't go after everything that I was doing was very solitary. I love to read, I love to knit, and now book
sure.
clubs are amazing. There's knitting clubs. My mom runs a thing here in New York where like they all get together every week and they make scarves and blankets for the homeless and for these various, charities and stuff. So there's even those solitary things have groups. So
Yes.
like find what feels good, what you enjoy doing, and get to know some people. And then I started going to the gym and I would take this normal class regularly. And all of a sudden, like, I have gym buddies. What? Like, and then you're holding each other accountable and you're
Uh-huh.
high-fiving each other for reaching your goals. And like, so where you go to spend time, you can find a community. If you are not a person who goes out because you are more comfortable in your home, there are loads of Zoom communities, loads of them. I actually, my best friend lives in Washington State. I'm in New York. We knew each other for about 4 months before we met in person. We've been best friends for like 3 years. I think we've actually spent time together on 5 occasions. Now, some of those times were like we spent a week together, like, that kind of thing. But like, I think I've only actually been in her person in 5 different occasions in 3 years, and we're best friends.
Yes, I think Marco Polo is fantastic for
I
those
love Margot.
smaller connections because you still get face to face, but you can do it on your own timeline. So
Yes.
you don't have to actually be able to coordinate your timing, but you feel like you have this conversation that can just carry on
Yeah.
ever. And I think some of my closest friends live inside the Marco Polo app for the most
Yep.
part, but I do see them from time to time. But
Yeah.
yeah, they're not
Yeah.
always right there. I think there are so many options, and I love that.
Yeah.
So where could people go to learn more about you? You've been
Sure.
fantastic to talk to, and I kind of am sad that our time is running
I
short.
know.
I'm learning to be cognizant
Yeah.
of what time it.
Yeah.
But
I'm
yeah,
like,
where?
I have all the time in the world, but I don't know if your listeners do. So
Okay.
Life After Breath is the name of my podcast, and you can find that on any of your podcast platforms, at least, especially the most popular one. There's a few, like, I found one the other day. I was like, I've never heard of this one before. And I looked, I'm like, yeah, not on there. But
On there, who knows?
yeah, I was like, I don't even know what this is. So anyway, Julia Christine Health is my IG, my Instagram, and TikTok. And then it's just Julia Christine on Facebook. Those are the best ways to get a hold of me. We have a blossoming Facebook community for the Life After Breath podcast community. And I'm really excited about that because there's like Q&As happening and we're going to start doing like lives with other people coming into the lives as well and like just really doing some fun stuff in there. So
Oh,
that's
super.
the best way to contact me right now.
That's super awesome. And we'll definitely put all of that in the show notes because we
Thank
want to
you.
make sure that we're helping people stay connected.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anytime that you listen to someone and it's really resonating, I want you to be able to follow up whenever
Yeah.
possible and be able to still keep that connection. So if you could have a gigantic billboard up in the world that everyone in the world would see,
Right.
what would you put on that billboard message?
So you warned me about this question. And my first thought was just breathe or just the word breathe. But I feel like that is almost like a colloquialism. Like people say that and they're like, okay, yeah, cool. I breathe every day. I don't have to worry about it. So then my second thought was, what would I see that would impact me? And I think that is, you are okay. You're okay. I know it sometimes doesn't feel like it. I know it feels like we're scrambling, but if you can take a breath and remind yourself, I'm okay. I'm okay.
Oh, I love
It
that.
feels so much better to get through it. So much. it feels get throughable. I'm not going to use the word easy, but it
I
just gives you that little boost of, okay, I'm okay. I can keep going.
I love that. And I liked when I asked, how are you doing today when we started? And you said, I'm okay. You didn't say I'm fine. Like, what is fine? You but I'm okay. Yes, it can sometimes be generic, but also I think sometimes that's really accurate. Like, I'm
Yeah.
okay. Like, I'm holding
Yeah.
my ground.
Right.
I'm not, it's not awesome.
Right.
But
Well,
like,
there's this pressure to be good,
yes,
to be like, I'm doing great. No, you're not. And that's okay. You're not doing terrible, and that's awesome. But it's okay to be okay.
yes. Some
Yeah.
seasons, that's actually like a huge win. Okay can be like phenomenal. Just
Right. I'm so much more okay today than I was yesterday. And yesterday I was okay, you
yeah.
know?
Yes.
So I'm
Yes.
still not great, but I'm okay. And I'm okayer than yesterday.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so I would love for you to lead us in one of these
Sure.
your exercises that you do on your
Absolutely. If you can plant your feet and like sit in the surface, that's the best. Sometimes people like to do this laying down. I tend to fall asleep if I lay down and breathe. So I say, if you can plant your feet, that's brilliant. But just find a comfortable seat. And if you're driving, please don't close your eyes. But if you're not, I invite you to close your eyes. If you're not comfortable closing your eyes, then just cast your eyes down. And we're going to start by taking a deep breath in through our nose and then out through our mouth. Do that again, nice and deep, and then all the way out. Now do that again, but imagine cool, clear air entering your nostrils. And as you breathe, just let everything go like a gray vapor out of your mouth. We're going to do that one more time, breathing in, cool, clean air, and now let all that tension go, gray vapor out of your mouth. Fantastic. Now go ahead and resume your normal breathing in and out through your nostrils, breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. Now keep going. And as you breathe, pay attention to what's happening. Focus on your breath. What I mean by that is the air cooler as it comes into your nostrils or warmer than it does going out? What part of your body is moving? Is it just your ribs expanding and contracting, your lungs? Or do you feel that in your stomach as well? Are you using your diaphragm? There's no right or wrong. There's no judgment or adjusting. Just breathe. Are your shoulders moving? Either way, cool. Keep breathing. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. Keep going. And as you do, repeat after me without moving your mouth. I am safe. I am here now. I am okay. I am enough. I am worthy. All is well. And when you're ready, go ahead and open your eyes. And it's that simple. That was what, 2 minutes, 3 minutes? I want to ask you, how do you feel?
oh, like so much more relaxed. I'm like, oh, okay, I can do this day. I woke up really grumpy, to be honest. I was up too late last night because my 5.5-year-old is so clingy and I have to be with her when she goes to sleep. And sometimes it takes like 2 or 2.5 hours. And she's clingy anytime that I leave during the day. Like she has to come out to the garage to say goodbye. And I love her and she is phenomenal. Sometimes I just feel like I need a breath alone. Being able to just breathe and be centered, and I feel like then I can go back and
Yeah.
I resume and be with everyone else.
Yeah, I think that it for me, and this is like I mentioned before, breath work, this type of breathing, I don't even like to call it breath work, just taking 3 minutes for yourself to breathe is literally opening a door. It is literally you connecting to yourself, to your inner being, to your inner spirit, whatever that is for you. And that is where calm lives. And so that's why like even if you're like in the frenetic energy of like running around, grabbing your kids, finding your keys, any of that stuff, stop where you are, take 3 deep breaths, and you're going to instantly have a sense of calm and a sense of ease. And it gives you just that much more space between you and whatever's going on so that you do feel ready to go back to it. So that all of a sudden you do find your keys. Like, how did taking 3 breaths all of a sudden find me my keys?
It's magic. It
It,
is
it,
absolute
it
magic.
absolutely is. And if you feel like you can't find 3 minutes, go to the bathroom. There's 3 minutes right there at a stoplight. Take 3 breaths right there. Like you do have time. If you can't carve out time, no. If you can't make time, like if you can't get up 3 minutes earlier without having a kid at your hip or whatever, which I get, I hope that didn't sound rude because,
No, it doesn't. No, not at
okay.
all.
But if you physically feel like you cannot do that, cool. Then you find the time in
Sure.
your day.
Well, and
And
they're
like I said, on the
like,
toilet,
you're a nurse and you literally don't even have time to go to the bathroom.
right?
You might be walking from one room to another room, one patient to another patient, and be able to
Yeah,
say, during this walk, I'm going to notice 3 breaths. Or you're a teacher and you're going all day, or you're whatever, you're in some corporate world job that really
right.
is back-to-back meetings. There
Yeah,
is a place for while the other person's talking, while I listen to this person give me this presentation.
right. The other thing I always recommend
You
to my
know?
clients, carry around a bottle of water because nobody's going to, if you, like if somebody's coming at you and you stop and take 3 breaths, they're going to be like, what are you doing? But if you can, like somebody's yelling at you and you unscrew your water bottle and you take a couple of sips and you rescrew your water bottle, there's your 3 seconds. You have now created separation and are in a different place to respond instead of react. They have no idea that you did anything besides take a drink of water. So carry not to mention like drink more water, but carry a bottle of water with you everywhere. And you are providing yourself with an opportunity to make space for yourself and connect to yourself by doing that.
This has been fantastic. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. I can't wait.
I am so looking forward to our Solidarity Sister Book Club. We're having our first Zoom meeting tomorrow. We'll be meeting Thursdays from 7 to 7:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Just that one weekly half hour as we go through 15 weeks of Brene Brown's Gifts of Imperfection. If you are not in that group and you want to be part of it, please go to the show notes and fill out the form. It's quick, it's easy, we'll get you right in. If you can't make it to every Zoom, make it to the ones you can. We also have a running Marco Polo conversation, so you're welcome to join that as well. I'm so excited to go through this book in community. It's time for me to have a refresh, and I'm glad to do it together. Thank you for being part of the Solidarity Sister community. We needed you. Solidarity.